Welcome back. There's big news from Hollywood right now. Just moments ago, Will Smith issued an apology for slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars. He said, "Violence in all of its forms is poisonous and destructive. My behaviour at last night's Academy Awards was unacceptable and inexcusable."
Entertainment reporter Sam Rubin joins us now from Hollywood. Sam, you were there last night. Let's start with this apology, which does feel like he's had to apologise to literally everybody, not only in the room, but from Chris Rock onwards.
Indeed. Well, finally, Will Smith mentions and names Chris Rock. I think a lot of this damage, and I think it's significant damage, could have been lessened if during his acceptance speech, 6 minutes at length, he had mentioned Chris Rock then. And still the ongoing question, and this apology goes on at some length, he concludes by saying he is a work in progress. Violence in all its forms is poisonous and destructive. My behavior at last night's Academy Awards was inexcusable and unacceptable. I would like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line and I was wrong. I'm embarrassed and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be. I'd like to also apologize to the Academy, the producers of the show, all the attendees, and everyone watching around the world. I am a work in progress. Shortly before that apology, the union that represents actors like Will Smith and Chris Rock, the Screen Actors Guild, issued a statement saying they were conducting an investigation and that this was a violation of their rules. So not only are we going to hear from the Academy at some point, although perhaps this apology tone tamps things down a little bit, what people are still wondering about, and you know, it's a psychological analysis that I don't know that I'm necessarily prepared to do, is how do you go from laughing at a joke and literally a split second later, and admittedly Jada did not like the joke, and clearly that was evident on her face, but people were absolutely startled. And then one element I've been talking about throughout the course of all this, which is just interesting, if you watched it here in America, it was bleeped and censored, and you didn't see the totality of the whole thing. It was the international broadcast that you saw in Australia, in Japan, and elsewhere, where it was immediately clear. And some people in Australia put it up on social media. This whole turnaround time was around 5 minutes or so, and that was enough to convince people here, wait a minute, this wasn't just a bit. It was actually some real act of violence. So it was real.
I found it striking that Will Smith, Sam, could have the confidence to slowly stride across the stage, slap Chris Rock in front of a global audience, walk back to his seat with a smirk on his face, knowing he could get away without any ramifications. And sure enough, he got up, won his award, made a tearful speech and received a standing ovation from everyone in the room. I still don't understand why he wasn't asked to leave the room. If you or I did that in a pub or a nightclub or a workplace, we would be asked to leave the room. What is your take on how the Academy has responded?
There's an ongoing post-mortem. The Academy is unbelievably feckless and reactive. So they didn't know what to do. They issued that laughable statement last night that we condone violence and, congratulations to all the winners. And there's a series of articles that people might want to look online from The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline. These are the major trade papers. From different locations. The green room, where Chris Rock's manager was livid, absolutely furious. Apparently, Chris Rock was asked, do you want Will Smith to leave? And Chris Rock declined not only to press charges, but have Will escorted out of the building. In the broadcast booth, they did not know what to do. The director of the show, who's directed the Oscars many, many times, simply said, look, until you figure out what you want to do, I'm just moving forward. Sure. I'm going through the list. And I think there's kind of quote-unquote blame all around. The producer of the Oscars, Will Packer, who knows these men and has worked with them for years, he was the one who invited Chris Rock to present, said that this hurt him on a multiple series of levels. And last night he put out kind of a stupid tweet, like, I told you it wouldn't be boring. Yeah. But I think today is a day of incredible reconsideration. And that's why, literally just minutes ago, we see that apology, a publicist-written apology for Will Smith.
Yeah, and a harsh light of day. People really change their mind on these things, don't they? All right, Sam, we'll speak to you a little bit later on. Great to have your insight on that.
Thank you, Sam.
And look, it's dividing people around the world. So we've got Dickie here. We're all on the desk this morning, and we're bringing in Brooke, who's joining us from COVID isolation. Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Brookie.
I miss you guys.
Yeah, we miss you.
But you know, the one good thing with having COVID and being at home is that you actually watched the entire Oscars ceremony yesterday, Brooke. What did you make of this one?
At first, I was having a bit of a stretch, so I wasn't looking directly at the screen. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's a swear. What the heck is going on here?
That's a swear.
Because he was swearing and it didn't get bleeped in the Australian version for some reason. And then it cut to an ad break really quickly. So I was a little bit confused about what happened. And then I went to the internet to find out all of the information. And it turned out that he actually did slap him. So I was pretty shocked and I was really taken aback because obviously we're not used to seeing any excitement on the Oscars like that. So my first reaction was like shock. But then when I read more about it, I sort of, I don't condone violence in any way, obviously. But I did feel really bad for Jada.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like I think everyone's spending a lot of time talking about Will and Chris, but she's got alopecia, and he's making fun of her in front of an international audience. It's not a kind thing to do.
I think that was 100% right, and I was, I was shocked that he'd said that, right? I was shocked, almost as much as I was shocked as when he hit him. And then I thought my first thing was, this is obviously a Hollywood moment, to try and drive ratings. And then I realised when he sat down that he had just completely crossed over.
Lost it. See, the reason we saw it live is the international feed is live. There's a 20-second dump button in the States, which they obviously used. But, I mean, you can't condone violence of any kind. But imagine, just for a sec, if he had, instead of stood up and clocked him, if he and Jada had stood up and said, we're out of here, left the room, got someone else to come back and collect his Oscar and explain what he was upset about. I think that would have been much more powerful and far more classy.
I think that, didn't he have a go at her at the Oscars a few years ago as well? And so I think that they've already sort of tried that.
Yeah, there's a bit of form there.
Dude, and so I don't think always that silence is the only way. Like, he's obviously got it in for her or likes making fun of her for some reason or another. And I think it's really punching down, pardon the pun, but to make fun of someone who, who's there to support their husband and whose husband is going to win an Oscar. And they've been the butt of jokes the whole season because of their relationship arrangement, which I guess is a whole other story. And, I'm not defending Will by any means because I really abhor violence, but I don't always think that it's the best thing to do to just stay silent in the face of that sort of behaviour.
I think you're going to run into criticism even by saying that, Brookie, because
I have, Karl. Don't you worry about that.
No, look, you can handle yourself. But I'm, at the end of the day, if the dude is going to get up there and do that, if it was anyone else, they'd have the full court press thrown at them, and he's lost the plot. He's done that, and now he'll have to live with the consequences of that. It's as simple as that.
He lost his temper. I think it's as simple as that. And violence should not be the first resort.
But if someone had to go at your wife or your partner,
I would be extremely angry. And I would do something about it, but I would not hit somebody. And I don't know. We all get angry. We've all had the red mist come down and just your blood
Can
boils.
we just for a second? Like, I'm not condoning violence. I don't think it's appropriate. It should not have happened. But there are people who love, like, UFC and boxing and who are looking at people like us saying, like, oh, this is violence and this is the most extreme case of barbaric behaviour we've ever seen. Like, they watch you.
But hang on, you've got two people stepping into a cage and agreeing to fight each other. So there's, I guess, permission that's been granted in that regard.
No, but I think what Brookie is saying is that we were supporting the fight with, for example, on the weekend. Or last week with Sonny Bill Williams, and we're going, how good was that fight? And then this happens. I think they're slightly different, but at the end of the...
They are slightly different, but just in terms of levels of violence.
That's right. There's degrees to it all.
Slap. Come on, let's
one
not
slap and not
Yeah, if you're going to compare it with that stuff, I would have said that it was pathetic. He slapped a dude and it was pathetic.
Sonny Bill does look good in the tux, though. You know what I mean?
He looks good in anything, in nothing. So final word, Brookie, for you?
I think that the really sad thing here is that so many people are really upset about Chris Rock getting slapped when, you've got someone with an international platform making fun of someone who has a hair loss condition. I'd be more upset about that. Like, people are really, really outraged about this slap.
And the focus should be on Coda, right?
Coda, exactly.
The focus should be on her. And, you know, comedy is allowed to be, there's so much comedy that's really funny. You don't have to make fun of people who have conditions to be funny. We know that. We do it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you only just need to look to it at his acceptance speech when he was named Best Actor too. I mean, that
he's on the edge.
You know,
Stuff
there was a lot going on there in that moment.
G'day, it's Ali.
And Karl.
Thanks for watching the Today YouTube channel.
Subscribe now for brand new videos every day and exclusive bonus clips.
Ali, say please.
Please? Why?
Please? I don't know.